They say if you drop a frog in boiling water, it'll jump right out, but if you heat the water slowly, it won't notice it's cooking. I never believed that story, but now I get the point. You don't always see a disaster coming. Sometimes it's 1,000 little nothings that turn into something you can't ignore. Thursday morning started like any other. Or it should have. I woke up before my alarm, which was already a bad sign. It was still dark outside, that pale gray-blue light barely seeping through the blinds. I reached across the bed out of habit, and my hand landed on cold sheets. No, Laura. Now, my wife isn't exactly a morning person. She usually hits snooze twice and steals all the covers before she finally drags herself out of bed. But she always says goodbye. Always. Sometimes it's a quick peck on the forehead. Other times it's her leaning down, whispering, "Don't forget your lunch," like I'm a kid heading to school. It's her thing. Our thing. 10 years together, and she'd never just left without a word. But today, no kiss, no whisper, no rustling in the closet. Just nothing. Then I heard it. The soft click of the front door closing. Not slamming, not creaking. Just that deliberate click, like someone leaving quietly on purpose. I sat up. The house was still, the kind of stillness that makes you question if you're alone. Our dog, Frankie, didn't even lift his head from his bed in the corner. He just sighed in his sleep. I envied him in that moment. Completely unaware, completely unbothered. I threw on a hoodie and shuffled into the kitchen. Her travel mug was gone, but the coffee maker hadn't been touched. That wasn't like her. Laura ran on caffeine. She used to joke that she married me for the French press. There was no note on the counter. No gone early. Love you. No half-eaten toast or lipstick on the edge of a cup. It felt like walking onto a stage after everyone had already left the theater. I poured myself a mug and stared out the window, watching the wind rustle the branches in the yard. October in Austin had this way of pretending it was still summer, until the mornings reminded you otherwise. I pulled the sleeves over my hands and just stood there for a while, sipping coffee that tasted like cardboard. You ever get that weird sixth sense that something's off? Not because of a big dramatic moment, but because things are too quiet, too clean? That's what it felt like. Like a movie paused right before the jump scare. I looked around our kitchen, the one I renovated myself 2 summers ago. Built-in shelving, custom tile backsplash Laura had picked out from a boutique place in San Marcos. She said it reminded her of a trip we took to Lisbon back when we were still newlyweds. We used to dream together in this kitchen. What color to paint the cabinets. What kind of dog we'd get. Whether or not we should knock out the wall between the dining room and living room. This was our place. Our rhythm. But now, the space felt foreign. Like it belonged to strangers. I tried calling her once, just to hear her voice. Maybe get a quick, "Hey babe, sorry I ran out early." But it went straight to voicemail. Her workdays usually started around 9. But maybe she had an early meeting? I left a message. Just casual. Didn't want to sound weird. I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe she was running late and didn't want to wake me. Maybe she was just in a rush. Maybe I was reading into nothing. Still, I couldn't shake it. So instead of making breakfast, I grabbed my keys and decided to stop by that new coffee shop she always talked about. The one on South Congress near the corner where all the weekend food trucks gather. Laura had mentioned it maybe half a dozen times. Said they had great pastries and a quiet upstairs nook where she liked to read if she had time between meetings. We'd always said we'd go together. One Sunday, she said, when things calmed down. Things never calmed down. Not really. The place was just opening when I got there. It had that clean, Instagram-friendly vibe. Bright windows, reclaimed wood tables, Edison bulbs hanging from the ceiling like glowing teardrops. A barista with a handlebar mustache greeted me like I was an old friend, even though I'd never stepped foot inside before. "First time?" he asked, handing me a small clipboard with the menu clipped to it. "Yeah," I said. "My wife comes here sometimes. Thought I'd finally check it out." He nodded. "Lot of couples like this place. Good energy, you know?" I gave a polite smile and ordered a black coffee and a chocolate croissant, Laura's favorite. Thought I might bring one home for her. Maybe smooth over whatever weird vibe had settled between us. Maybe it really was nothing. I sat down at a table by the window. A few early birds filtered in. College kids with laptops, a couple of yoga moms in matching Lululemon, a guy in scrubs who looked like he hadn't slept in days. Then I heard it. From behind me, not loud. Just one of those voices you recognize even when you're not looking for it. You glow when Jason's around. Your husband must be jealous. A man said it, light-hearted, teasing. Sounded like someone trying to get a laugh. I didn't turn around. Not yet. My stomach flipped before my brain caught up. Then I heard her voice. Calm. Controlled. Familiar in the most uncomfortable way. Tom doesn't notice anything. I'm not really his wife anymore. Not Mark, which is my name. Tom. But the voice? That was Laura. No doubt. The air left my lungs like I'd been ***punched. My hands were still on the coffee cup, but I couldn't feel them anymore. I wasn't even sure I was breathing. I turned slightly in my seat, enough to glance in the reflection of the window without being obvious. 2 tables behind me, Laura sat with a man in a charcoal gray blazer, the kind guys wear when they want to look important but not too important. He had that effortless charisma you only see in consultants or real estate brokers. She laughed at something he said, touching his wrist lightly. Not romantic. Not yet. But familiar. Too familiar. I felt heat creep up my neck. My ears were ringing. I couldn't tell if I was angry, hurt, or just confused. Probably all 3. I looked down at the croissant in its paper bag. Her favorite. Fresh out of the oven. Thought it might be a peace offering. A warm gesture. Now it just sat there, mocking me. I stayed until they got up to leave. I watched as they didn't hug, didn't kiss, didn't do anything wrong. But the damage was done. That one line played on a loop in my head like a bad song stuck in traffic. I'm not really his wife anymore. What did that even mean? I don't remember driving home that morning. All I recall is gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. The croissant still sealed beside me in the passenger seat like some kind of sick joke. I didn't eat it. I didn't throw it away either. Just let it sit there. Like I was waiting for it to turn into some kind of answer. It never did. When I pulled into the driveway, everything looked the same. The trimmed hedges. The porch swing Laura begged me to install that she only sat on twice. The wind chimes we bought from that flea market in Fredericksburg. Our house was still our house. But something about it felt hollow now. I sat in the truck for a while, engine off, listening to the ticking sound of the cooling metal. Just me and the echo of those words. Tom doesn't notice anything. I'm not really his wife anymore. I kept trying to convince myself that I'd misheard. Or maybe she was acting. Some kind of role play. Hell, maybe Tom was a character she invented for a novel she was writing on the side. But I knew better. That wasn't fiction. That was Laura, my Laura, saying something real. That evening, I didn't bring it up. She came home a little after 6. Same as usual. Keys jangling, heels clicking on the tile. She didn't look guilty. Not exactly. Just distracted. "Hey, babe," she said, tossing her coat on the back of a chair. "You okay? You look tired." I nodded, forcing a smile. "Just a long day." She walked over and kissed me on the cheek. Not the forehead. Not the lips. The cheek. The kind of kiss you give your uncle at Thanksgiving. Then she disappeared into the bathroom, door clicking shut behind her. I stood there for a moment, hands still holding the fridge door open, staring at nothing. I wasn't sure what I was more bothered by, what she said, or how easy it was for her to pretend like she hadn't said it at all. That night I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed listening to her breathing beside me. Calm. Even. Peaceful. Meanwhile, my thoughts were clawing at the inside of my skull. Was I overreacting? Being paranoid? Or had I really heard the beginning of something unraveling? The next few days were full of those moments. Little things that, before, I would have brushed off. Now they stuck to me like burrs on a flannel shirt. She changed her phone password. That one hit me harder than I expected. Not because I checked her phone, I didn't, but because she used to leave it lying around, wide open. She'd even ask me to respond to texts while she was driving. We were open like that. At least I thought we were. Now it buzzed. and she'd swipe it away before I could glance at the screen. The way her thumb danced across the screen was practiced. Confident. She wasn't hiding panic. She was hiding practice. Then there were the late-night work calls. At first, they happened once or twice a week. Now it was almost every night. Always in the bathroom with the door shut and the fan on. She'd come out 20, 30 minutes later, face neutral, phone still in hand. I never heard names. Just vague phrases, budget's tight, or let's circle back. One night, I waited by the door after she went in. Not eavesdropping, just there. And I caught a scent. Subtle but unfamiliar. Not soap. Not shampoo. Cologne. Sharp and citrusy. Definitely not mine. I wanted to believe she hugged a coworker. Or maybe it rubbed off in a meeting. But the smell wasn't faint. It lingered. Long enough for me to stand there, alone in the hallway, pretending not to notice what was right in front of me. Another change, the groceries. Laura's always been particular about what she buys. She keeps a running list on the fridge, color-coded and alphabetized. That list used to read like a familiar script: eggs, spinach, oat milk, granola bars. But one day, I opened the fridge and there it was. Protein shakes I'd never seen before. Stuff with labels like Extreme Pre-Workout Thermo Boost and Clean Mass Max. Laura didn't drink those. She hated artificial sweeteners. And I definitely didn't buy them. I asked her about it. She shrugged. Oh, they had a promotion. I thought you might want to try them. But she said it without looking at me. Her eyes were glued to her phone. She was rewriting a story I knew by heart. Changing little lines of dialogue here and there. Swapping out the plot while I sat in the same scene. Then there was her tone. Laura used to write messages like she talked. Warm. A little messy. Too many emojis. She'd send stuff like, hey, grab eggs if you pass the store, egg, hatching chick red heart. Now it was more like, please confirm if you'll be home by 7. No punctuation. Just cold. Like a business text. And her location history? That's when things started sliding from weird into what the hell. See, we have this family app, Life 360. It's not about trust. At least it wasn't. It was about safety. If she was driving late, I'd check to make sure she got home okay. That's all. But then one night I noticed she'd spent 3 hours in a suburb called Del Valle. She doesn't work out there. Doesn't have friends out there. There's nothing out there except some warehouses and a high-end fitness club tucked between 2 industrial parks. Private members only, the website said. State-of-the-art training, complete privacy. She'd never mentioned it. Not once. So I asked, hey, I said casually one night as we were watching something on Netflix. You been working out lately? I saw those new shakes in the fridge. She didn't even blink. Oh, I've been meaning to get back into it. I signed up for this new place. It's kind of far, but they have great reviews. Del Valle? She hesitated for a microsecond. Just enough. Yeah, she said. It's low-key. I like it. I nodded, pretending to go along. You should show me sometime. Might be good for my back. She laughed, almost too hard. Nah, it's not really your vibe. Lots of kettlebells and angry techno music. I smiled, but inside, something cracked. I knew I had a choice. I could either keep pretending or I could face it head-on. The problem was, once you go looking for truth, you can't unknow it. And I was getting dangerously close to knowing. The worst part? I still wanted to believe her. Still wanted to believe this was stress or hormones or just a rough patch. But that voice inside, the one we all try to ignore, kept whispering. She's gone, man. She's halfway out the door, and you're the only one who hasn't noticed. People think when you catch someone cheating, it happens like it does in the movies. An open bedroom door, a silhouette under sheets, clothes scattered like breadcrumbs. But real life doesn't give you that kind of clarity. It gives you windows. And if you're unlucky enough, it gives you just enough of the truth to make you wish you hadn't gone looking for it. It was a Monday when I finally followed her. She left around 6:45 p.m. Same as always. Same black gym bag slung over her shoulder. Same tight ponytail and generic, don't wait up smile. She kissed me on the cheek. Again, just the cheek. And told me she had a private instructor session. Strength training, she said. Long overdue. I waited 5 minutes. Then I grabbed my keys and followed her. I wasn't proud of it. I didn't feel clever or vengeful. I felt sick. But this wasn't about paranoia anymore. It was about proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that my gut hadn't been lying to me. Del Valle wasn't far. Just a 20-minute drive southeast of Austin. Mostly warehouses, open lots, and the kind of places that only exist on Google Maps and in corporate invoices. It was getting dark by the time I pulled up near the private fitness club she'd told me about. The building was sleek and modern. Black-tinted windows, mirrored steel panels, minimalist logo. The kind of place that looked like it belonged in a tech startup brochure, not the middle of nowhere. But despite the mirrored glass, the second floor had panoramic windows that faced west. Just wide and clean enough to offer a distorted, shadowy view of the inside. I parked across the street, turned off the engine, watched. First, nothing. Just silhouettes, people stretching, jumping jacks, dumbbells moving. For a second, I thought maybe I was crazy. Maybe this was just a gym. Then I saw her. Laura. Her hair was down now, loose and swaying behind her shoulders. She was laughing, like full-body laughing, the way she hadn't laughed around me in months. She wasn't alone. There was a man beside her. Tall, built. One of those people whose confidence radiates like heat off pavement. They weren't working out. They were standing by a weight machine, talking like they knew each other's secrets. Like there was no rush to leave. Like this was their routine. Then it happened. He leaned in, said something I couldn't hear. She tilted her head back, still laughing. Her hand touched his arm. And then, slowly, like it was the most natural thing in the world, he kissed her. Not a quick kiss. Not a peck. This wasn't an accident. This was a kiss. And Laura kissed him back. She didn't look guilty. She looked comfortable. I don't know how long I sat there after that. Might have been 5 minutes. Might have been an hour. The world didn't feel real anymore. My hands were gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from floating off into space. That wasn't a misunderstanding. That wasn't a work call, or a protein shake, or just a friend moment. That was betrayal. Open. Honest. Delivered right through a second-story window like a gut punch wrapped in glass. The next morning, I didn't say anything. I got up before her. Drove downtown. Stopped by the same coffee shop. This time, I didn't go inside. I just sat in the truck and watched the front door. No sign of her. No sign of him. Maybe they weren't meeting today. Maybe she was being cautious. It didn't matter. I drove to a little bakery near Barton Springs and picked up her favorite croissant, almond with powdered sugar. The same one she always reached for when we used to go on early morning walks before life got too busy. I went home, made coffee, set the croissant on a plate and left it on the kitchen island. Next to it, I wrote one line on a post-it note. Last night's fitness looked interesting. Then I left for work. I expected a text, a call, something. But by noon, there was nothing. Around 3 p.m., I got a message. Can we talk tonight? I didn't answer. That evening, we finally crossed paths in the driveway. She was pulling in just as I was getting home from the hardware store. She stepped out of her car slowly, like a kid caught sneaking in past curfew. Her face was pale, but she tried to smile. Hey, she said, tucking her hair behind her ear. I saw your note. I just nodded. Then, as if on cue, he showed up. The guy. He pulled in, too. Same car I'd seen him get into at the gym, black BMW. Plates from Travis County. He parked like he owned the street and stepped out with that same half-grin I'd seen through the window. He didn't even pretend to be subtle. Instead, he walked straight up to us, eyes darting between me and Laura. You must be the husband, he said. Mark, right? I didn't answer. He smirked. Didn't mean to step on any toes, man. But, if you took care of business at home, maybe she wouldn't be looking elsewhere. It was bait. Obvious bait. But I wasn't going to give him what he wanted. So I smiled. Calm. Collected. And I pulled out my phone. I've got photos, I said. Timestamps. Videos. Screensh asterisk ts. Enough to make sure you both get what you deserve, publicly, legally, and financially. His smirk faltered. Laura looked like she'd been hit in the chest. You were spying on me? She said, voice rising. No, I said. I was watching my own life fall apart. And now I'm done watching. The neighbors heard. Some came out onto porches. One even pulled out a phone. Suddenly, Mr. Alpha's charm cracked. He muttered something under his breath, got back in his car, and peeled off down the street like a teenager in a tantrum. Laura didn't follow him. She just stood there, holding her gym bag like it weighed 100 pounds. Mark, she whispered. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I looked her in the eyes. You already said it, I replied. I'm not really his wife anymore. Silence. Then she said something I didn't expect. Not a denial. Not even an apology. I'm not happy, Mark. I nodded. Clearly. She started to speak again, but I held up my hand. Save it. Then I walked inside. She stayed outside for a long time. I watched from the kitchen window as she sat on the porch steps, head in her hands. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel rage. Just empty. Later that night, she came in and went straight to the bedroom. I didn't follow. I stayed in the guest room, where I stared at the ceiling until sunrise. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew one thing for certain. Whatever this was, it wasn't a marriage anymore. I didn't leave right away. A part of me wanted to slam the door, pack a bag, drive somewhere aimless with the windows down and the music too loud. But another part, the quieter, more rational side, told me not to let her chaos push me out of my own home. So I stayed. That first night in the guest room was strange. The bed was too firm. The sheets smelled like laundry detergent and not like her. And the ceiling fan made this rhythmic click that I hadn't noticed before. But even with all that discomfort, I slept better than I had in weeks. Maybe months. When I woke up, there was a note on the kitchen counter. Laura's handwriting. Familiar, neat. No heart over the I like she used to do when we were younger. Just straight, formal, distant. We need to talk. I don't want things to end like this. I read it once, then again, then folded it and dropped it in the trash. There was nothing left to talk about. Not yet. That day, I packed a small duffel, just essentials, and drove to my buddy Nate's place. He's an electrician I've worked with for years, the kind of guy who always has a spare beer in the fridge and doesn't ask questions unless you want him to. He took one look at me standing on his porch and stepped aside without a word. You want the couch or the spare room? He asked. Spare room. He nodded. Good. I just changed the sheets. And that was that. I stayed with Nate for a few days. I didn't tell him everything, just enough. He listened, didn't judge, didn't say the usual things people say like, are you sure? Or, maybe there's still hope. He just sat with me on the back patio, drinking shiners in silence, like a real friend should. And in that silence, something in me began to settle. Not forgive, not forget, but settle. That's the thing about heartbreak. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, clean, a slow melting away of something you thought was unbreakable. And once it's gone, all that's left is the question. What now? I started with the finances. It's what I do when I don't know what to feel. I organize, I check spreadsheets, I tally receipts. So I logged into our joint account and began combing through transactions. That's when I saw it. Tiny red flags. Not huge purchases, nothing that would jump out at a bank. But the pattern was unmistakable. Multiple $300 transfers to a consulting service I'd never heard of. Then $200 here, $150 there. All spaced out, spread across 2 months. In total, just over 13 grand. Gone. I called the number listed next to the transactions. No answer. Left a message. Never got a call back. Next, I checked the shared Dropbox we used for paperwork. That's where I found something worse. A PDF of a consulting agreement with my name on it. My signature. Except I never signed it. It was forged. Badly too. Whoever did it didn't even try to match my handwriting. just slapped my name onto the bottom of a document that claimed I was hiring a third-party trainer to consult on physical therapy and mobility exercises. And the trainer's name? Jason. I don't know if it was arrogance or stupidity, but there it was, plain as day. Laura had used my name, used me, to funnel money to the same man she was cheating with. I felt sick. Not angry, just violated. It's one thing to betray someone emotionally. It's another to do it on paper. I made an appointment with an attorney. Her name was Emily Carter. Highly recommended, sharp as nails, and with a reputation for being calm under fire. I showed her the documents, the bank records, the contract with the forged signature. She looked through everything slowly, her brow furrowed. "How long has this been going on?" she asked. "At least 3 months," I said. "Maybe longer." She nodded. "You did the right thing coming in. We need to act fast. I'm going to file for financial protection and freeze the joint accounts. After that, we'll prepare to initiate formal proceedings." I sat back in the leather chair across from her, staring at the polished wood table between us. It all felt so surreal. Just a few weeks ago, Laura and I were planning a weekend trip to Wimberley. Now I was consulting lawyers and freezing assets like we were in a war. "You okay?" Emily asked gently. I blinked. "I will be." She gave me a half-smile. "You're not the first guy to sit in that chair with that look. But I can promise you this, we'll make sure she doesn't get away with any of it." That night, back at Nate's, I didn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, my mind racing in every direction. Images of Laura and that man. Her fake smile. The gym. The kiss. The contract. The lies. By 3 a.m. I couldn't take it anymore. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I landed on a name I barely remembered saving. Madison. Jason's wife. We'd met once at a company Christmas party. She was quiet, polite, dressed in this red velvet dress that looked expensive. Laura said she worked in marketing, but I couldn't remember where. All I knew was she had a calmness about her, a kind of dignity. I debated for nearly 10 minutes. Then I tapped call. It rang 6 times. I was about to hang up when she answered. "Hello, Madison? This is Mark, Laura's husband." A pause. "Hi. I'm sorry to call so late." "It's okay. What's going on?" There was no easy way to say it, so I just said it. "I think you already suspect something about Jason. I'm calling to confirm it." She didn't say anything for a long time. Then, "Tell me everything." So I did. I told her about the gym, the windows, the kiss, the payments, the fake contract. I didn't embellish, didn't editorialize, just the facts. When I finished, she took a deep breath. "I knew something was wrong," she said quietly. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew. "I'm sorry," I said. "Don't be. You gave me the one thing he wouldn't, clarity." That word stuck with me. Clarity. Because that's what I had now. Not peace, not healing, but clarity. Madison said she was going to file for divorce, that she had her own attorney, that she'd been documenting things for weeks. I told her I'd send her copies of what I had. Photos, messages, financial records. She thanked me. Then she said something else, something I didn't expect. "I know this is a mess," she said, "but thank you for not hiding, for reaching out. Most people wouldn't." I hung up and stared at the wall, the silence pressing in like static. Laura had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I filed the paperwork. The accounts were frozen, the joint credit cards disabled, my name removed from her vehicle's insurance. Every digital string she could tug on, I cut it. I was done being the loyal husband who waited for explanations. Now, I was the man who saw the fire and stopped pretending it was just a flickering light. I didn't tell Laura right away that I'd filed. I let the silence speak first. She came home 2 nights after the financial freeze like nothing had happened. I was already back at the house. Emily Carter said it was important I didn't abandon the property. So I returned while Laura was out. When she walked through the door and saw my truck in the driveway, she froze. I saw it in her body language. How her keys jangled too long in her hand, how her steps slowed like she was walking into a room that had changed shape. "Hey," she said cautiously. I nodded from the kitchen table. No smile. No warmth. She stood by the doorway like a guest waiting to be invited in. "I didn't think you'd be home," she added after a moment. "I live here," I said flat. She flinched, just barely. Then she stepped in, setting her purse down slowly. "Mark, listen. I know things got out of control, but I didn't mean to hurt you." I leaned back in my chair. "It's not about what you meant. It's about what you did." She looked down, lips pressed tight. "And what you forged," I added. "That one hit." Her head snapped up. "What are you talking about?" I reached into the folder on the table and slid the fake consulting contract across the surface like a playing card. She stared at it, said nothing. "I already spoke to an attorney," I said. "She's filed paperwork. The accounts are frozen. Your gym boy won't be getting any more training fees in my name." Laura swallowed hard. Her face drained of color. "Mark." "No," I cut in. "Don't spin it. Don't tell me it was a mistake or that I don't understand. I do understand. You funneled over 13 grand out of our accounts using a fake contract and my name. You committed fraud. You crossed a line you can't uncross." She reached out like she might touch my hand, but stopped herself. I was scared. I didn't know how to ask you for what I needed. You were always so steady, so hard to reach when you're in your work mode. I needed someone, to shake me out of it. "That someone was Jason," I said. "And instead of talking to me, you kissed him through a gym window and paid him with money tied to my social." She stared at me, tears forming in her eyes. But I didn't move. I had spent enough nights watching those same tears dry into more excuses. That night, I told her she had 2 weeks to pack her things. Emily had filed for a temporary occupancy order giving me primary use of the house during proceedings. Laura didn't argue. Not anymore. Instead, she said, "Do you really hate me?" I looked her dead in the eye. "I don't hate you, Laura. I just don't know who you are anymore. And I'm done losing pieces of myself trying to find out." That was the last real conversation we had. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Madison moved fast. Her lawyer subpoenaed Jason's financial records and work communications. Turns out he had a habit of using similar consulting agreements with other women. Laura wasn't the first. She might have thought she was special, but in Jason's world, she was just another profile in a folder. When that evidence surfaced, Madison filed for divorce with cause. She requested sole custody of their daughter, citing financial deceit and moral conduct. I sent her everything I had to help. Meanwhile, my attorney, Emily Carter, was building our case brick by brick. She compiled financial statements, logs of Laura's movements, **TS of text messages, and even metadata from emails. One in particular stood out. A message Laura sent to Jason that read, "If he ever finds out, I'll just say he imagined it. He's too passive to do anything drastic." Emily printed that one in bold. "This is going to hit hard in court," she told me. We prepared for the hearing. Laura tried to delay. Her new lawyer asked for mediation. Emily refused. "Your wife forged your name and redirected funds to a man she was sleeping with," she said. "We're not negotiating from the back foot." The court date arrived on a Monday. Rainy, gray, fitting. I wore the same charcoal blazer I wore to my sister's wedding. Laura arrived late, hair pulled back in a tight bun, minimal makeup. Jason wasn't there. She didn't look at me. Inside, the courtroom was sterile and humming with tension. The judge, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense tone, took her seat and opened with a sigh. "Let's begin." Laura's side went first. Her attorney opened by describing me as emotionally unavailable, increasingly distant, and career-obsessed. Said Laura's actions stemmed from a desperate attempt to feel seen in a fading marriage. I expected to feel angry, but I didn't. I just felt tired. When it was our turn, Emily stood with a calm confidence that made the air shift. She presented every piece of evidence, each with a precise timestamp and context. She saved the text for last, the one about me imagining it. When she read it aloud, the courtroom went quiet. Even the judge leaned forward. Laura said nothing. Emily closed with, "This isn't just a divorce case. It's a betrayal wrapped in fraud, manipulation, and dishonesty. My client gave his best years to this marriage. He is not the villain here. He is the one standing in the ashes." The judge called a brief recess. 20 minutes later, she returned with her ruling. Mark Me was granted full ownership of the house. No alimony, no post-divorce support, no further financial claims. The forged documents and redirected funds had been enough to nullify Laura's entitlements. The judge even recommended the case be reviewed for potential criminal charges, though I declined to press them. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to be done. After court, Laura approached me in the hallway. Her eyes were glassy, mascara streaked just slightly. "I didn't expect it to end like this," she said. "You ended it long before court," I replied. She looked down, clutching the strap of her purse like it was a lifeline. "I lost you," she whispered. I stared at her for a long moment. "No," I said quietly. "You spent me." And then I walked away. After court, I packed what was left of her into 2 boxes. She came quietly, avoided my eyes. That silence between us said everything. Alone now, I started combing through old accounts and found more. Over $13,000 siphoned in fake consulting fees. Emily froze everything. I didn't break down. I didn't scream. Just stared at the screen and thought. She kept digging even when I caught her. This wasn't love. It was erasure. I called Madison. She already knew. "I filed yesterday," she said. Turns out Jason had patterns. Laura was just another name in a long line of lies. In court, Laura's lawyer painted me cold and distant. But Emily countered with receipts, signatures, and one text that ended it all. "If he finds out, I'll say he imagined it." The judge handed me the house. No alimony. No more ties. When Laura came for her last things, she whispered, "I lost you." I said, "No, you spent me."